This map shows the patchwork of colorful imperial claims dividing the African continent in the late 19th century. Dead in the center, this bright yellow block represents the Congo Free State. The tidy borders offered a comforting illusion of control, detached from physical reality. The wealth extracted from that river flowed back to cities like Brussels, building grandiose classical architecture. These structures served as sanitized, bureaucratic facades for the colonial administration, imposing, cold offices that the narrator, Marlow, compares to a whited sepulchre. Before deploying to the Congo, agents passed through these offices to see the company doctor. This physician had a specific, ominous routine. He used calipers to physically measure the skulls of departing men. He explicitly warned them to keep calm in the tropics. Asked if he measured their skulls upon return, he noted he never saw them again. He believed the changes took place inside the mind. The calipers point to a specific internal rot, raising a profound question about this work, whether the colonial enterprise itself acted as a catalyst for a profound psychological breakdown, triggered by the absence of external checks and the presence of absolute power. Upon reaching the African coast, the grand promises made in Europe meet a different reality. The further Marlow travels from the headquarters, the more the administrative veneer begins to crack. Take this French man-of-war, anchored in empty waters off the coast. It spent its time firing its 6-inch guns pointlessly into the silent bush. It was a massive display of misplaced industrial might against an unseen target. Move further inland, and the logistical failures compound. Workers blast cliffs that aren't even in the way of the railway. Imported drainage pipes are deliberately tumbled into a ravine and smashed to pieces. When a grass shed catches fire, a manager tries to put it out using a tin bucket with a hole in the bottom. This purposeless machinery ran on a devastating human cost. The administration enslaved the indigenous population, forcing them into chain gangs to carry earth and supplies under the brutal sun. Once these native laborers were starved and exhausted beyond use, they were allowed to crawl away into the shadows of the trees. In this grove of death, they were left to slowly die of disease and malnutrition. This total breakdown of logic reveals the underlying truth of the mission. The administration functions as an engine of absolute chaos, consuming the land and its people without leaving a single functioning rail behind. Right outside that very grove of dying men, you find the company's chief accountant. He sits in a dilapidated wooden hut, wearing immaculate starched white collars, snowy trousers, and varnished boots. His obsession with keeping perfectly ordered ledgers masks a complete loss of human empathy. When a sick, dying agent is brought into his office, the accountant only complains that the man's groans distract his attention and cause clerical errors. Then there is the station manager. He doesn't rule through competence, organization, or intelligence. He rules by projecting a vague, constant uneasiness. His defining survival trait is simply that he never gets sick. While tropical diseases decimate his peers, he remains perfectly healthy, proudly declaring that men who come out there should have no entrails. He equates a lack of physical vulnerability with having no conscience. The sole driving force behind these hollow administrators is the paranoid, competitive scramble for ivory. Look at this massive pile of extracted elephant tusks guarded by European agents. They spend their days plotting against one another to earn a percentage. This is the true nature of what Conrad calls the flabby devil of colonialism. It is a system where surviving the bureaucracy requires the total amputation of morality. Taking a small, grime-covered steamboat up the river is agonizing work. As the vessel struggles against the current, dwarfed by the immense, impenetrable wall of jungle vegetation, it represents a deeper penetration into both the continent and the colonial mindset. Stripped of its philanthropic pretense, the project reveals its core logic. It is robbery with violence and aggravated murder on a great scale, driven by blind greed. You see this moral decay most clearly when contrasting the European agents with the native crewmen on the steamboat. Even while starving and outnumbering the colonizers 30-5, the indigenous crew exhibits surprising human restraint, choosing not to attack their captors. Marlow realizes that the true heart of darkness lies within the men themselves. The surrounding wilderness merely acts as a mirror, reflecting the hollow, morality-free void left behind once the constraints of civilization are removed. When administrative systems are designed purely for extraction and stripped of human empathy, they rot the psychological core of the conquerors. The civilizing mission proved to be the true sickness.